Welcome to another episode of Irtiza vs. Mustafa Sports Talk. Please follow us on Instagram at HusseinBros23 and follow our YouTube page at HusseinBros. Today's topic is a great discussion. We're going to be discussing how YouTube stars are getting into the sport of boxing, and does that hurt boxing or does it improve the sport of boxing by bringing more views to it? And we're going to be obviously discussing the big fight coming up on April 17th with Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. So before I pass it out to my brother, I'm just gonna you must have heard of Jake Paul, have you?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've heard of the fight and the name, but I always get confused by the brothers. I still don't know which one's which, and I really don't know which one's fighting Ben Askren right now.
You know, Jake Paul, the guy who knocked out Nate Robinson. You've heard of him.
Well, I think I know who you're talking about. You talking about Jake? Jake? The dude that thinks he's a box star for knocking out Ray Robinson? The dude that thinks he's a YouTube star but doesn't get the views of Mr. Beast? Jake? Jake? That's the Jake you talk about?
What the hell are you doing? You know Jake Paul. Stop pretending.
No, I'm just playing around. I was just playing around. I know Jake Paul. I was just trying to copy Soldier Boy and Drake, you know, that interview. But in all seriousness, no, I am actually looking forward to this fight. You know, I think this fight's good for boxing. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I haven't actually looked forward to a boxing fight as much as this one. The last one I looked forward to this much was Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. So, I mean, that says something. You know, I think these YouTube stars are doing a good job of promoting the sport of boxing, and they're bringing a lot of eyes to the sport of boxing, which boxing doesn't have a lot of views. Not a lot of people are watching boxing. So I think these type of people, and like Mike Tyson also said, you know, these YouTube stars, these other celebrities coming into the boxing ring, you know, they're good for the sport of boxing. People already know them. People already know Jake Paul. People already know Logan Paul. People already know these guys. They're already famous, so they're going to tune in. Even if they think they're going to win or lose is irrelevant. They're going to tune in more than the upcoming boxer that no one knows about. So I think it's a good thing for the sport of boxing. What about you?
I personally think it's terrible for the sport of boxing. These people work their whole lives, 20 years, since they were like 5 years old, working, trying to be the best boxers they can, and then you have someone that trains a year or two and comes in and probably gets paid more than all the boxers, except for like Alvarez and Joshua and them, but he getting paid more than 95% of the boxers without training his whole life for it. So I don't think it's good for the sport of boxing. It actually downgrades the sport of boxing. I think more people are going to start tuning into MMA, like UFC, because you know UFC doesn't allow that. They allowed it once with Tony Lights. I forgot his name, but the guy who fought Randy Couture.
Oh, you're talking about James Lights Out Tony.
Yeah.
That. But he's still a professional fighter at the end of the day. He's not a random celebrity that hasn't fought. So, I mean, I get what you're trying to say, but like you said, people are already watching MMA more than they're watching boxing. Other than the big, like, few stars that boxing has, a lot of people are tuning into MMA on regular more than boxing. MMA has been the fastest growing sport, specifically the brand of UFC, whereas boxing's been declining. And if it wasn't for these heavyweights or Canelo Alvarez, no one's watching boxing. And out of the heavyweights, there's only two left that are really famous now. And we'll see what happens after they fight each other. But I think it's great for the sport of boxing. And like I said, like Mike Tyson said, these people are bringing more eyes to the sport of boxing, which you need, more viewership. And you could see how well the Mike Tyson event did. Of course, it had to do with Tyson and with Roy Jones. Of course, it had to do with those two. But a huge part of it was Jake Paul and Nate Robinson. Mainly Jake Paul, because nobody's tuning in for Nate Robinson. Let's just be real. Like, no one knows Nate Robinson. No one knew him while he was playing basketball. So he's just as famous, if not more famous, than any of these boxers coming in. So he's bringing more viewership, and overall, that's going to bring in more fans to the sport of boxing. And it doesn't matter if people are tuning in to watch a professional fighter or a YouTube star. They're tuning in, and the numbers speak for themselves.
Yeah, but it's good. I guess it's good for the sport of boxing, but it's not. I don't think it's fair for the people that train their whole lives, and a YouTube star comes in and gets paid more than them. But I guess, yeah, more people that tune in, then I guess he deserves it, because at the end of the day, it matters about the viewership. And if people can bring 1 million views to the pay-per-view, compared to like a professional boxer that can only bring 300,000, then of course he's gonna get paid more. But who do you think's gonna win? I personally think, even though I said Jake Paul and that might not be good for the sport of boxing, but I personally think Jake Paul's gonna win by knockout. I'm predicting first or second round knockout. I don't think it's going past 3 rounds. That's my prediction.
Whoa, let me just stop you right there. I think it's good for boxing. I'm looking forward to the fight, but I definitely don't think Jake Paul's going to win. I'm with Dana White. Ben Askren might not be the greatest striker in MMA. Definitely isn't the greatest boxer for sure. But at the end of the day, he's a professional fighter. And even if Jake Paul has been training boxing and he's a more crisp striker, he might be faster, he might have better technique. But I think at the end of the day, he hasn't been training that long. And he won't be able to take the punch, in my opinion, of Ben Askren. Whereas Ben Askren has been hit with by professional fighters who can hit a lot harder than Jake Paul can. And I'm sure Ben Askren has been training boxing too his whole life, since he's been training MMA. So I'm pretty sure he might just be better than Jake Paul in stand-up boxing alone. So I gotta say, I think definitely Ben Askren's gonna win, and I'll be 100% shocked if Jake Paul ends up winning this fight, even if he wins by decision and not knockout. I mean, I really think his punches aren't gonna hurt Ben Askren at all, and when Ben Askren hits him, I think he's gonna feel it, because it'll be the first time he's actually fighting a professional fighter who has good technique and who can throw with a lot of power.
I don't think you watched Ben Askren fight. He has no power. He's got no power at all. You can probably punch harder than him. Ben Askren might be the worst striker in all of mixed martial arts. Like, Ben Askren's a great MMA fighter, or good. I wouldn't say great, because he didn't prove himself in the UFC, which is the main promotion of MMA, like the biggest you can get. But he cannot box, and I'm telling you right now, he's getting knocked out before 3 rounds. Put your money on Jake Paul. And I've watched both their training videos. Obviously, you don't get the full insight, like how they actually are, like how good are they actually doing. But Jake Paul looks pretty damn good for a person that is not a professional boxer. He looks pretty damn good. It seems like he can outbox quite a few people in the MMA. I'm not saying he can beat Conor, like he keeps calling out Conor. That's not gonna happen. I don't think he can't beat him, because Conor's one of the best strikers in MMA. But he's fighting Ben Askren. Did you ever see Ben Askren fight?
Yeah, but I think Ben Askren isn't showing his potential properly. I think the videos he's showing, the releasing of him hitting the heavy bag, I think he's just doing it on purpose, so that everyone thinks he's gonna lose, and he's gonna go in there and he's gonna dominate. Because you can't be that bad of a striker if you've been a professional fighter for so long. Because you're still training boxing, you're training kickboxing, you're training Muay Thai, you're training something that's going to make your striking, even just your boxing, better than the other guy. And he's been training for a lot longer, and he's been competing at a very, very high level. So although, yes, he hasn't proven himself in the UFC, he's proven himself in MMA. In the sport of MMA, he is a really good fighter. His prime style of fighting might be wrestling, and the way he wins might be due to wrestling, but he's still a great striker, and I think he's going to be a much better striker than Jake Paul. And he's won championship belts at other promotions. Let's not forget that. He's faced some great strikers, some great boxers that are great for MMA boxers. So you can't tell me that you seriously think a YouTube star that's just been training boxing for a year or two, or however long he's been doing it, is going to beat a professional fighter who's been a champion at other promotions, who's faced fighters who've trained their whole lives and are absolutely amazing strikers and amazing boxers. He's beaten them, and he's taken their blows. So it's not like he's not taking punches by them. And that's what I think. That's why I think he's going to win. I think Jake Paul's punch is not going to hurt Ben Askren.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm pretty sure Jake Paul's going to win. Like, even if Logan Paul fought him, I'm pretty sure he'll beat Ben Askren too. Like, I'm not, like, Mr. Beast, like how you brought him up earlier, he might not be able to beat Ben Askren because I haven't seen him box. But the two Paul brothers can definitely beat Ben Askren. we'll just have to wait and see. Tune in April 17th. Watch the fight. There's also a former UFC champion fighting on it, Frank Mir, which is definitely gonna lose. He's definitely gonna lose. Like, that's 100% sure. He's fighting a professional boxer, and he's been knocked out so many times. His chin can't hold up. So, if you have any leftover money, throw all your money on the guy fighting. I can't remember his name. The guy fighting Frank Mir, because that's 100% win. That's easier win than Jake Paul against Ben Askren.
Well, I couldn't agree more than that. Frank Mir is definitely losing. He's never been a good striker. His chin has never held up. I mean, he's fighting a professional boxer. I forget his name as well. I don't know why I'm forgetting his name right now. But, you know, he's definitely winning. Like you said, if you got any leftover money, put it all on him. Everything against Frank Mir. Go all in. Guaranteed win. But I guess that's it for today. That's it for our discussion today. Like always, stay safe. We hope you have a great weekend, and please tune into this podcast. Like always, this has been Sports Talk by Two Canucks Up North.